Okay, guys, welcome back. So, today, what we're going to talk about is trauma. So, what exactly is trauma? We all know it, we've all have experienced it. It depends on the level of magnitude that we have had the exposure. So, according to the research, any of the emotional response that pretty much displaces a distress, it can be life threatening or non life threatening. It can be in a form of abuse or any kind of disaster, right? And so what happens when we experience trauma? Immediately, it's either the fight or flight, right? And so, what happens is trauma actually creates holes in our brain. I'm not sure if you knew that, but it does happen. And so, how does this impact our children? How does this impact us later in life? You have to do a lot of work and protect your mind so that you can either attempt to heal from it or be able to cope with it. And so you have different diagnoses. You have a diagnosis of anxiety, and then you have diagnosis of more severe anxiety, which can be PTSD. So, unfortunately, research has not concluded that they have a cure for PTSD, which is very unfortunate, and we're hoping that science catches up. However, there is help and there is a cure and help for anxiety. And so now you have an abundance of research going with cognitive based therapies, with um, DPT therapy and other therapy. Not so much where they have to go and do things in your brains and try to dismiss things with lobotomies and things like that. They have other help that therapists and psychologists like me can help you as we continue to matriculate through this world, because we all have trauma and we all face really hard things. I just want you all to do a few things to make sure that you're trying to protect your mind. One thing is, when you hear something or if something is triggering, that you be able to identify your triggers. Knowing your triggers can really help, because you won't try to continue to be exposed to that thing, because we have what's called flashbulb memories. They can be a memory of a smell, a sound, a location, a place, an item of clothing that you put on, any of these things. And if you are triggered, then something can happen. Did you know that if you hear things 6 times, it gets stored into your long-term memory? And so the reason why I say that is because it's very important for us to try to make sure we are monitoring and protecting our brain, wherein the things that we want to hear goes into our long-term memory, right? So when you have trauma, and if in fact things are triggering you, or you're experiencing things, or even someone just giving you or saying something negative about you, you will begin to believe it if you hear it 6 times. So if someone is telling you, oh, you're a beautiful person, you're a nice person, you will be more likely to believe that if they if you're hearing it 6 times. But just imagine vice versa, right? Someone saying, oh, you ain't shit. Yeah, unfortunately, those are words that are out there, and none of us are immune to them. So when you hear those, and I say those meaning curse words, don't be surprised. We all use curse words from time to time. They're just words. So you need to be cautious about what you are allowing to enter your brain. Same thing as if, in fact, you're on social media. Social media is designed for advertising and all this, but we have to be gentle. Sometimes it can be triggering. Sometimes we can hear things or see things that trigger us, and then next thing you know, we are experiencing anxiety or we are experiencing depression. And so you have to monitor that. And if you are actually witnessing that more than 6 times or hearing it, then all of a sudden it's planted. You can do the reversal, right? Because at night is when our brain actually throw out the trash. If it's not significant, try to decompress your brain by doing something else right before you go to sleep. And definitely not making those neurotransmitters fire by using our phones and hopefully not even watching this message. Using our phones and watching television and things like that because it's overstimulating. So we really need to decompress. But more importantly, back to the trauma. So when we are experiencing trauma in our world, we can actually do some work to get the help. But if we don't do the work, then it's just going to snowball. And then we are going to do things that is destructive. You may self-medicate. You may project that on others. You may become a person who is negative because you don't know how to cope. And so we really need to be able to identify our triggers and to try to be able to cope with our trauma by working through it. We're going to do another video going more into details about which therapies are used and how we want to be mindful of children, especially children who are in school setting or children who have experienced trauma, right? Because they're not focused on anything else. That's what they're focused on. They'll be focusing on the trauma that they have. So let's work on that some more. See you guys soon.